had this morning. When you think about the role of silence, there are people right now who are listening who are like, listen, I would love to be more vocal. I would love to be able to be more upfront. Going back to that example, most people did not march with Dr. King. Most people did not support Black Lives Matter. I would love to be more outward, but I got bills to pay. I got this, that, and the other. I got kids. I got to raise. You gonna pay for my kids if I get, fired from my job. As someone who studies human behavior, how do we make those sorts of decisions in a way that allows us to preserve our personal economy? Because unfortunately, Dr. Ray, we do not yet have this independent wealth capacity that would allow us to walk away, sort of like a waiting to exhale, toss the flame behind you and watch the car blow up sort of scenario. A lot of us can't do that. But we still want to be able to show up and be effective for our community and be somewhat effective at shifting the needle. What would you say to people who wish they could be more effective, but don't really see a power source for them to tap into that would allow them to do so effectively?
We have to realize is that our silence is our acceptance. And that's one thing my grandfather taught me as a drill sergeant is your silence is your acceptance. So don't be silent. That doesn't always, what that means though, is we can think about how we use our voice and how we engage. I think about it in a three-pronged approach. What people are doing now is they're becoming what I call a racial equity learner. They're learning about how to do this, like the conversations you're posing. And now we want to shift to becoming what we were talking about earlier, racial justice and racial equity advocates and brokers. See, the advocates hold people accountable for what they do. The brokers think about how to transform the policies, rules, laws, and procedures that govern over us. Now, with that being said, I think what people have to do is they have to figure out what they love to do and then figure out how to get paid for it. Because once you have a skill set that you get paid for, like talking and communicating and being a political orator and these sort of things, however we want to think about it, a writer, a researcher for me, is that then all of a sudden you always have a hustle because you have a skill set that hardly no one else has. So people have to figure that out. Once you do that, then you're a lot more autonomous. That gives you the freedom to do what you need to do because you're not tied to a company or an institution. You're tied to your skill set. Too many of us, I think, are tied to a company or an institution. We're not tied to our skill set. When you're tied to your skill set, you don't need an anchor. You are the anchor. What I think we have to do is think about what the change looks like locally. A lot of us, we focus on what's happening federally on Capitol Hill. That makes sense. But there are things happening locally in our own communities, with the school board, with the city council, with different community organizations that are dictating what your kids are learning in school, that's dictating how your kids are being policed when they walk home from school, that dictates potentially how much you're paying at the pump or even at the grocery store because you might have a lack of access in your community. So you're paying more for the few that you do have. So we have to start locally. The other thing I'll end with, find models. One of the things I did when I was going to graduate school, and graduate school is just a daunting thing. It's getting a master's, getting a PhD, getting a JD, an MD. These are huge things. And oftentimes many of us are first where we go. Accordingly, what I did was I looked at 5 people whose lives looked like something I might like to live in 10, 20, 30 years. I took their resumes, their CVs, well, curriculum vitae in the academic sense, their Wikipedia pages, and I backtracked what they did to my age, which at that time is probably 22 or 23. And I put them in an Excel spreadsheet. And all of the comments, I color coded it, I did all that. All of the commonalities, I followed that path because as MLK said, we might not be able to see the end of the bridge because of the clouds, but we can look down and see our next step. Just order your steps and see what the next step is. Realize that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Figure out how to find your place. The point is, I surrounded myself with people who I might not have even met yet because I followed a path that they had already outlined. And I found out how I could do what I wanted to do, get paid, and make change. And the other thing is, I realized that I wasn't really driven by money like other people were. Figure out what you're driven by. If you're driven by money, that's fine. But then figure out how to get that money and then use it for the change you want. But I was driven by something different, which was to make social change. And I knew that I had a skill set and a gift that would make room for me. And I think enough of us don't do that. So I'll end there. Hopefully those comments were helpful, but that's helped me throughout my career to always center myself in terms of saying, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I follow my skill set and my gifts and fall in line with what I feel like I was put on this earth for, and realize I am the anchor and I don't have to be anchored to a company or an institution.